Okay, my name is Shonika Rishidas. My sister knows me as well as Elwood. I just wanted to bring up a theme or subject matter. Most people don't even care to listen about it, but a subject matter that some people might be interested in, and that's whether to have circumcision or not to have circumcision. Hmm? To my knowledge, to my knowledge, circumcision began with Abraham. He was 80 years old. He hadn't had a child. But now, let's look back. Let's not put him in our age where they're even trying to give pornography to children. Don't put him in our age. Examine him in his age. Did he try every night? Did he try 3 times a day? Did he try once a year? No one knows. But 80 years old, he didn't have a child. So he was directed by the Supreme to do circumcision, and he did it to himself with a hatchet. We don't know the sequence, but I imagine Sarah was not thinking anything was going to happen different, wasn't so much interested. And circumcision makes you 10 times lustier. 10 times lustier you become. Just to save the good looks of Abraham, some people say that the queen sent him to the servant. Maybe, perhaps, since he had never experienced this lust so much, maybe he went on his own and had a child, a son. Now the queen, logically, is not going to want that son to be the inheritor of the kingdom. So the son is gone. But that doesn't mean the son is bad. That son began a line of religious people. Islam. He began. He wasn't a bad kid, but maybe different ethnic ways, different society, different so many things like this. It just makes so confusing the place that better he go someplace else. And he started his religion that's still going on. Islam. He wasn't a bad kid. They didn't kick him out. So now, Abraham is an example where he wasn't really so desirous to have children, but then after 10 times more lusty, it came. So this is a very logical reasoning of God to increase the population of humans. Increase population in humans, the man becomes lusty. That's what happens. That's a logical thing. Let's increase the population on this earth. Is it necessary now? Do we have to put God in that time and then bring him all the way up to this time and use the same statements? A personal statement to Abraham? No. Let's leave that and look at the surroundings. There were people, not just Abraham's following, but there were people. There were civilizations. They also were doing circumcision. Their manner of doing circumcision is before the man can marry the girl, he's circumcised. Now that is scientific, logical, and it helps propagate. And mom and dad become grandpa and grandma and become so happy. I think that's logical. I think anybody would think that's very logical. And that also shows that in those days, people weren't so much interested in pornography. They were more busy in farming, taking care of the family and everything. They didn't have extra time to look at one of these things that I'm looking at, one of these mobiles, and look whatever you want to look at and agitate yourself and go drink anything you want to agitate yourself. They didn't have that. It was a calm, religious society. Yeah, it was a calm, religious society. And this also gets a little more logic. If the kid didn't ever want to get married, or he was too ugly or something like that, if he didn't want to get married, then he had the right to say, no, no circumcision. I will live my life tranquil. And I know there's mention about sadhus, about holy men outside the city who every night were just chanting together. Just chanting together, and you could hear all the sounds. Yeah. So there's more logic to that way. Abraham, he's 80 years old, he gets circumcised. Okay, I'll go along with that. We don't even know exactly how old the kids were of Moses. They weren't circumcised. And the Lord asked them to do it to them. But they were already kids. They were already walking on their own. They already had, their consciousness had already developed one stage, developed another stage, developed this another stage. They were men or young men. They weren't 8 days old. Okay, so now let's take it. So many hospitals nowadays, the child is born, male, and rapidly he's circumcised. No decision from the child. Of course, nowadays, they would like all the children 10 times lustier, uncontrollable. Most men who are circumcised could tell you they still have the desire even when they're, like, I'm 75, you know. I don't, I abstain from the desire, but it's there. It doesn't go away. Doesn't leave your mind tranquil. You're bound by it. So you got Abraham and his group. You know, they weren't so much interested in propagating and having sex life. They weren't interested so much. So okay, let's put the 8-day-old child. That's the customs for the ceremony. 8 days old. Then you take them and you cut them up. And then they take the blood of the child within their mouth. Yeah, the person cutting takes the blood of the child into his mouth. Where Scripture says you should not take blood any blood into your mouth. Here, they are taking the blood of the child in their mouth. So, what scientifically could happen? Scientifically could happen. The male is doing it to a male. So there's similarity in the DNA male to male. So the DNA of that child will stay in the man. And it will bother the mind. Yeah, it will bother the mind of the person. There's no logic to this. The scriptures telling them don't take blood, and they take blood. And the DNA stays in the body and gives extra troubles, as if you don't have enough troubles. Because a man DNA and a man DNA are similar, and the body will not reject it. But it's not compatible. One man's DNA is not the same as another man's DNA. It's not compatible, but it's not being thrown out. So one time I heard a video of the person performing the circumcision after he had cut the skin and there was bleeding on the genital. Of course there's bleeding. He whispered to the child and he says, I know the scriptures are saying that you should do this, not myself, but I'm doing it for you. Now, if it says it in the scriptures that the child should do it to himself, take the blood off, why is another man doing it? There's no need for him to do it. But logically, the child can't do it because he's still a child, you know. It's difficult for him to do it. So the scripture's saying that the person that's getting circumcised should suck the blood himself. Then there's logic to that the kid has to be big. Not 8 days. But he's big. He can make a decision. Give the guy a break. It can disturb his life. Doing it the wrong way disturbs. Yeah. There's so many things that could be said, you know. The society around them was doing it at a certain age, and it was a logical thing. They're grown up. They're ready to decide for themselves. It's not forced upon them. They don't even know what's going on at that age. At eight days old, and in hospitals maybe in 2 days old, they don't even know what the heck's going on. They don't even know. What's going on here? Why is everybody here, you know? And why am I hurting so much? No. This is not acceptable. This is not logical. And my Lord's a very logical Lord. Very logical. He would never ask such a thing. This is man-made speculation, changing the words, not knowing the effect on the child, and maybe some do know, and they want the child 10 times lustier. 10 times. just one, not just two, many times lustier. Hmm. Not a good situation for a child. Coming into the world and somebody's cutting you up for no reason, for no good reason, and you have no decision on the whole matter. I think it should be stopped. I'm not pushing the fact. I'm just giving the suggestion and saying that it should be done differently. It should be done differently. And men in ancient times, they were so busy doing everything else that they didn't have the chance to have so much desire for sex life. I'm using this whole thing is in a medical way. Even the word sex in a medical way. It's a disturbance to the brain. So I don't think it's not a video for kids. I think it can give them some intelligence too. Not to be so disturbed about sex life. Yeah. So I hope it's permitted in the community. I don't want to disturb anybody, but I hope it's permitted for people to understand trying to speak in the best knowledge I know about medical stuff. The person who absorbs himself in too much sex life, everybody knows that is not such a good thing. The semen within the body, the whole blood system's 7.3 alkalinity. The semen is special fluid. It's special. It has to be special. It'll make a child. It's more powerful. The semen is 7.4 alkalinity. And alkalinity helps calm the brain and it helps mature the brain. So there's two ways of flowing of the semen. One is the body absorbs the semen and makes your body more brilliant, more intelligent, calmer, and everything. Or loss of semen does the exact opposite. If they'd like, they can take this off. It's not fit for kids, but I'm just going to put it out there. And I'll see the response. I'll leave my email so that anybody who wants to respond to me can respond to me. Put me right or put me wrong. whatever I did right or wrong, or add something important. Okay, I think that's enough on the subject matter.